They come outside. Seeing the three of them, music is reminded of his dead family. He doesn't fire his gun because he knows that lions maintain the balance of nature. Before going out to search for the remaining survivors, he goes to his underground medical room and checks whether the mutant rats have become normal after treatment. But he still doesn't see any difference. Actually, Will is a brilliant scientist. He has developed a gene therapy based on a virus vaccine. Just when he thought that today would also be disappointing, he noticed that one mutant rat had lost its ability to attack. This gave him the idea that the rat was slowly turning normal. If this experiment on rats succeeds, he could turn those zombies back into normal humans too. Every day, Will leaves home at exactly 8:00 a.m. to search for survivors and zombie hideouts during daylight. He drives to the video store every day, changes the mannequin on the stairs, and talks to the mannequins he has placed there. No one can even imagine how lonely a person can be that he has to make mannequins his friends. He marks every place he visits on his map and collects food and essential supplies from those locations. Every day at exactly 12:00 p.m., he calls on the radio in search of other survivors and drives to the harbor hoping for a miracle. But 3 whole years have passed, and he has never received any response. To reduce his loneliness, Will goes to the Enterprise aircraft carrier in the afternoon and plays golf while standing on a plane. But during this time, his dog notices something strange. There is movement in the distance. Will immediately picks up his rifle, looks through the scope, and sees that it's a deer. Without wasting time, he takes his dog and sets off for the hunt. But then a bad incident happens. While running around, the deer accidentally gets trapped in a closed area and in panic runs inside a building. Perhaps the dog hadn't eaten meat in a long time, so it fearlessly follows the deer inside the building. Will tries to stop it. Will gets scared, but for the sake of his dog, he has no choice but to go inside. It was pitch dark inside. Nothing was visible. Even though I increased the video brightness to the maximum, the atmosphere still felt even scarier and more terrifying. At this moment, Will's heart was pounding badly. Even a mirror could scare him right now. As he went upstairs searching for his dog, he suddenly heard a painful scream. He feared that something bad might have happened to his dog. Consoling himself, he moved forward. Following the bloodstains on the stairs, around the corner he saw the severed head of an animal. The relief was that upon moving ahead, he found out it was a recently killed moose. But the terror of death was clearly visible on the moose's face. Seeing this, Will raised his gun and started looking around. Then he saw another horrifying sight. A whole horde of zombies was less than 5 meters away from him. Will had to gather courage for his dog and go inside. Finally, he found his German shepherd hiding under a table, looking extremely scared. Just as he was about to call out to the dog's eyes fixed straight behind Will's back. Will senses something is wrong. As soon as he turns around, a terrifying scene appears before him. Will starts running outside like a madman with his dog. But eventually, they get caught by the zombies. The good thing was that Will managed to jump out through a dark window in time, and as soon as sunlight fell on the zombie, it collapsed injured on the ground. Although the recent experience scared Will, it helped him locate their hideout. To experiment on zombies, Will set up a trap outside. He took out a vial of his own blood and placed it at the building's entrance, then hid outside himself. In just 2 minutes and 30 seconds, a zombie got caught in the trap. As the trap activated, a live zombie was forcefully dragged out. But then, with an angry roar, a terrifying-faced zombie suddenly came out, as if it wanted to devour Will alive right away. He himself couldn't understand why this zombie was so furious. After returning home, Will remained busy experimenting on the zombie. He had no idea that this female zombie was actually the wife of the zombie king who had roared earlier. Because Will captured her, a full war broke out between the zombies and humans. He was the only living human in the city, but he was shocked when he saw that a mannequin's head suddenly moved. Even more terrifying was how the mannequin, which should have been at the video store entrance, had suddenly reached several kilometers away. No one could understand how. In that moment, Will pulled out his gun and aimed it at the mannequin, thinking that some human had placed it there to communicate with him. But he couldn't see any human nearby. In reality, it was a trap set by the zombie king for revenge because Will had captured his wife. When Will approaches the mannequin and bends down to look at the water beneath it, the trap set by the zombie king suddenly activates, and Will is left hanging in the air. Due to the head injury, he falls unconscious. When the sun is about to set, Will wakes up to the sound of his alarm clock. As soon as the sunlight disappears, the terrifying zombies start coming out. Will quickly pulls out a knife from his waist and, in panic, cuts the rope tied to his legs. But as he falls to the ground, the knife stabs straight into his thigh, creating even more trouble because the last rays of the setting sun were disappearing. The very next moment, Will senses danger. Terrifying sounds start coming from the dark building in front. Then the zombie king appears and releases 3 ferocious hunter dogs, but due to the remaining sunlight, they couldn't reach him. As soon as the sun sets a few minutes later, the zombie hunter dogs attack madly. At this moment, our main character's life is in danger. The only ray of hope between his life and death is his German shepherd, who has stood by him through this apocalypse. This German shepherd is his only companion and his reason to live. He is terrified that his German shepherd might die. There was a pistol in the car. Will started crawling toward the car. But as the last rays of the sun began to disappear, the hunter dogs' attack intensified. He had very little time left. Enduring the pain, he gets up and moves forward on his elbows, but after a few steps, he falls to the ground again. At that exact moment, the ferocious zombie dogs pounce on him. Will stops their attack with bullets from his gun. But then the second zombie dog leaps at him. Just as the sharp teeth of the ferocious dog were about to tear his cheek, the German shepherd arrives in time and saves him. But the worst was yet to come. In the fight, the other dog had bitten the German shepherd, which broke Will's heart because only he had the antibodies, not his dog. After returning home, Will immediately gave the antiviral injection. He held him in his lap and hoped that his German shepherd would recover. Smiling, he kept consoling himself that his beloved companion would be fine. Then the dog's fur started falling out. When he lifted the dog's eyelids, he saw symptoms of the disease appearing in the corners of the eyes, and deadly signs also appeared in the mouth. Will's heart shattered, but reality forced him to take a painful decision. Reluctantly, Will used his strong hands to choke the life out of the one he loved, the one who had stayed with him through countless lonely dark nights. He was completely broken. But at the same time, Will realizes a strange problem. When humans infected with the virus turn into zombies, they don't have much brain, yet they were able to set up traps exactly like humans. When he looked at the seat beside him and saw no sign of Sam, he could no longer bear it. So that very night, he took his car and drove straight to the harbor and, without thinking, started attacking the zombies. However, because he was inside the car, the zombies couldn't do much to him, but they kept coming. They completely surrounded the car and started breaking the glass. Then some zombies climbed the lamp post and dropped it directly onto the car. Will got trapped inside. Seeing the crowd moving toward him, he quickly tried to get out of the car. But more zombies arrived. The zombie leader ordered an attack on him. Before Will could do anything, the car flipped over due to the collision and landed near the edge. A monster appeared in front of Will. Now Will was like a deer caught in a trap. Death was approaching him moment by moment. But at that very moment, a bright light appeared, as if some human was coming toward him. Finally, he couldn't bear it anymore and lost consciousness. When he woke up, he found himself lying in his home with his leg wound bandaged. He saw a woman with a child beside him. It had been 3 years since he had seen another human. He didn't know how to talk to people anymore. Then the woman introduced herself. Anna told Will that she had heard his message on the radio. She came to New York with the child and waited all day, but Will didn't come. She was thinking of going to Vermont because it was a safe place for humans. Hearing this, anger appeared on Will's face. He told Anna that there is no safe place anywhere. All of America has been destroyed. Anna wanted to argue with Will, but he suddenly shouted at them. He had always believed that he was the last living human on Earth. which put immense mental pressure on him. In despair, he had become completely dependent on science and logic and focused all his attention on finding a cure for the virus. His entire life and hopes were pinned on this one goal. But Anna's news suddenly changed his thinking completely. She told him that there are other survivors elsewhere. This meant that Will's long loneliness and hard work had not been in vain, because now a living human stood before him. Will struggled with his thoughts and emotions in his room for a long time. Finally, he accepted reality and came out of the room. Anna explained to him that they should go to the quarantine zone together, but Will clearly refused. He said he would not leave from here at all. After that, Anna went to Will's lab. When she saw the female zombie lying in ice, she couldn't believe her eyes and asked Will if he could really cure this zombie. Then Anna saw hundreds of pictures of zombies on the wall. Will had been using them like lab rats to make the vaccine. As soon as the sun's rays began to disappear, Will immediately closed all the doors and windows. Anna again tried to convince Will to go to the quarantine zone, but before he could reply, they heard loud noises from outside. When he opened the small window and looked, he saw a large crowd of zombies heading toward his house. Will couldn't believe the scene in front of his eyes. He had always tried his best to hide his scent, yet a huge horde of zombies had found his location. They started moving toward them like raging monsters. When asked, it turned out that, when the woman had saved him the previous day, she brought him to the safe house but didn't take any precautions afterward. However, there was no time to blame her now. Will immediately turned on all the bright lights around. But surprisingly, the zombies who were usually afraid of light had suddenly become very clever. After destroying all the street lights, they started advancing rapidly toward the man. Scared, Will immediately activated the next security measure and set off all the nearby bombs at once. When Will looked again, all the zombies had been killed in the explosions. But when he called out to Anna, there was no reply. He went upstairs to find her. At that exact moment, a zombie attacked him. It grabbed him tightly, lifted him off the ground, and threw him onto the table. Helpless, Will became a victim of brutality. Just when the zombie thought Will was dead, it didn't know that he had been pretending. Seizing the opportunity, Will picked up a screwdriver and struck the zombie. But the blow didn't hurt it. The zombie picked him up and threw him down again. Now, as the zombie king growled angrily toward him, Will quickly grabbed a rifle nearby, and the zombie ran away as if it knew how dangerous human weapons are. Will aimed here and there, but the zombie hid behind the wall. So Will immediately targeted a gas cylinder and fired. The explosion sent the zombie flying outside, but it still wasn't badly hurt. After that, it climbed the stairs and disappeared. When Will chased it, he found that it had jumped out of the window and escaped. Will quickly went inside to find the woman, but saw another zombie in the room, and the woman and child were hiding under the cupboard out of fear. Will signaled them to stay completely silent. He was preparing to kill the zombie with his pistol, but then the zombie spotted them. To prevent them from getting hurt, Will had no choice but to gather courage and enter. He fired at it. But suddenly, a loud sound came from outside. When Will opened the door, the zombie king was roaring toward him. In reality, it had gone to call more people. Even more terrifying was that their attack was no longer just random destruction, but a fully planned one. When Will saw the zombie leader outside the window, he felt uneasy because the zombies no longer seemed like mere animal-like creatures. They had intelligence, too. The three of them quickly ran to the basement. Will securely closed the main door, and Anna hid in a corner with the child. But then she saw a miraculous sight and immediately called Will. In reality, the vaccine Will had created was working, and the zombie king's wife was slowly turning back into a human. But then the zombies broke in. Will quickly closed the glass door. He wanted to tell the zombies that he could turn all of them back into humans. But in the zombies' eyes, Will himself was a terrible monster because he not only captured their companions for experiments, but had also kidnapped the zombie king's wife this time. This caused the entire zombie army to boil with rage. As the zombie king kept pushing the glass door, it was slowly breaking. At this moment, Will realized his situation. While looking around, his eyes fell on the butterfly mark on the woman's neck. Seeing the butterfly, it felt as if everything suddenly made sense to him. He immediately picked up a container and extracted serum from the zombie king's wife's body because her blood could act like a vaccine. It could create antibodies. So he extracted the serum, sent the woman and child to safety through the underground passage, handed the serum to the woman, and closed the gate behind them. Then the zombie king broke the glass. At that exact moment, Will pulled the pin of a grenade and ran straight toward the horde of zombies. And this is where this amazing movie ends.